Okay, did a bunch of work on the setting up the, so I put on the carbs, I put on the linkage here, and the linkage, I'm using these springs here. The interesting thing is this spring is pretty taut, but then on this side, the spring is like a little bit loose, which is kind of annoying. Maybe I can squish it so that both springs, see this spring doesn't engage at the very beginning, whereas this spring is engaging at the very beginning. But either way, the throttle return works great. Then what I did is I was working on the Airkewld hardline. So what I did is I had to cut this and flare it. I almost had a disaster by it split when I flared it. So I had to cut it down a little more, and I was worried here because see here, it only misses by about a centimeter. You don't want that to hit when it's vibrating. So, you know, I've got about a centimeter in there. I think that's good. And so I had to cut it here, and then I had to cut it here, flare those. Then I cut the straight piece. Straight piece comes all along here. It goes to my fuel pressure gauge here. Cut it here and cut it here, and then it comes around the corner here. You can see how that looks when you're looking down the line there. It misses the shroud, hooks into the other, and then here on the front you can see where the gauge, you know, you tilt that up a little bit, and so from the back of the bus you should be able to see the fuel pressure, so that's good. Then it comes down here in a T, and so I can't put this last tin on while it's in the stand, but it roughly, and I may be off by just a little bit on this vertical piece, but it then clamps into here. So I had to widen the hole, so just a bit, so that this thing can get through, and then the two nuts clamp it down there. And then coming from the outside, that is from the underside of the bus, you just use the AN fitting. So that's great. That really allows you to just slide the engine in and out without that long metal oil or fuel line coming through that can hook on stuff. So anyway, I'll have to make the underside of the bus. I'm going to move the fuel filter to the underside of the bus. It's going to connect through this guy. So that is fabulous. And then this thing obviously goes on the shroud there, so this will rotate down. So that's where I am right now. Next step for me is I have these guys here which come up through there, but it's like a puzzle piece. I can't put them on while I put these heater boxes in place, and I kind of screwed them down. You can't then put this in, no matter how you do it. You can't get that to go in there, so I need to loosen it back up, get these guys in there, and then put on the CSP Python. I think, because the Python has to go on once these are already on. These have to go on loosening either this or this tin. So I have a little bit of a which order do I do things in, but I think I'm going to put these guys on first. Then I'll loosely tighten everything down so it's back in place. This will come up here with the grommet. And then I'm going to put the CSP Python on loosely and see if I can get everything to fit. And then of course I have to figure out how to, I got to get the grommets back in there. I think what I'm going to do is just start with the regular old grommet here, and not the bigger one that goes around the air duct. So, this grommet is easy, and this thing fits right up through it perfectly, like that. Same as with this side. I can take this grommet, start it out in there. And again, this one's going to have to be shortened because look at that. It's a little too big. So I'll shorten that one so that then I can put it on with this clamp. All right, that's the status. I should be able to make some progress, I think, this weekend. And I'm not exactly sure when I'm going to put it in the bus. I don't have the ability to start the engine on the stand because I don't have that equipment, you know, to block this off and have the starter and the battery and the fuel. So I'm just going to do it in the bus. I'm not going to bother fitting that stand. That probably cost me like $800 or $900 just to get the whole setup so that I can start it on the stand. So there's also a deep fuel sump that is supposed to come. I ordered the 2-quart from SCAT. They didn't have it, so they said, would you be okay with a 1.5 quart? And I was like, all right. 1.5 quart is, I think it sits up a little tighter, so that's fine. It's just a little less oil. Okay, that's where it is.